living longer, living healthier, living better than ever before. Welcome to Mountain Pacific's Healthy Living for Life, a weekly series that gives you the information, education, and expert insight you need to become an active participant in today's ever-changing healthcare climate. Here now is today's program host.
Assisted living, independent living, nursing homes, retirement communities. We've all heard these terms, but how do we know which one is best for us and the care we need as we get older? Welcome to Healthy Living for Life, a show dedicated to helping you do just that. I'm your host, Beth Brown, and today we're going to talk about the differences between nursing homes, assisted living communities, and retirement communities, and what to consider when looking for a home. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're kicking off this morning with Nanette Holmes from Hunters Point Retirement Community, and thanks so much for being here with us this morning, Nanette.
My pleasure.
So let's start with some of the terms that we need to define here this morning. So nursing home tends to just get thrown out as a term for everything, but how is assisted living, nursing home, and retirement facility all different?
Gotcha. Well, nursing home usually refers to skilled nursing, and that would be a rehab facility that provides medical care for people. So hopefully for a lot of people it's not long-term, it's short-term, but they do provide both those long-term and short-term options. But they have a full medical staff, they provide that sort of care. Assisted living is a residential community that provides some medical care. So they have a nurse on staff, caregivers 24 hours a day, but then they also allow people to live independently to a certain degree. So that's kind of nice with the assisted living option. Yeah. Retirement communities, that usually refers to independent living, and that does not have a medical element at all. So that would be giving people the benefits that you get from communal living, so dining, transportation, carefree living, but they don't have the medical part of that.
Okay. And so you said that a retirement community is independent living, and that's a term that we hear a lot too. Is a retirement community the same thing as independent living then, or how does that fit in?
It is interchangeable. So retirement communities, that can refer to active adult retirement communities, which usually you don't see a lot of those in Montana. That's your Florida and your Arizona type of condominium community, 55 plus, where people get all the benefits of not owning a home, I would say. Retirement communities here in Montana, independent living communities, that's usually communal living in an apartment style building, and people have the options of living usually either in a cottage type environment or in a larger community building. You get the dining services, you get the transportation services, maintenance free living, housekeeping services, and usually a full activity calendar with a lot of options for classes, fitness programs. All of that would be included in independent living.
Okay, so when you talk about a retirement community, when should a family start having that conversation, and how do you approach it so that no one feels offended or like you're trying to kick them out of their home?
That's always a tricky question. So people should be talking about this for themselves when they're kind of at that age of retirement. So, you know, even those of us in our 50s or 60s should be looking ahead, you know, what do we want to have our lifestyle look like long term? So start having that conversation. In Montana, of course, we all want to stay in our homes as long as possible.
Sure.
If we didn't have to move, that would be the ideal. But we should always look, you know, it's better to plan ahead and know what might be the best option for you. So just start talking about it with a parent. If you're an adult and you have an older parent, bring the conversation up if you can, just about, you know, what if, have those what if conversations. Nobody wants to move during a crisis. That's when you feel like you've lost all control and you don't get a make the choices that you want to make.
Yeah, it becomes a forced situation.
It is. That's
Yeah.
never a good thing.
No, it's no fun. So let's talk about the planning, because a big part of that is going to be expenses and how much a place like this might cost. So what do people need to think about financially for this kind of planning?
Well, the one thing that people need to know is that most independent retirement communities are private pay, so it's not covered by medical insurance. So this is where your retirement income really comes into play to cover your expenses for this. The cost of independent living communities varies widely, so you can find something for every budget. There are low income options, subsidized housing for older adults. That's available here in Helena, across the state. So that is for people that maybe don't have a large retirement income. But then there's also communities that for an independent apartment, if it's a large apartment, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, it can run, $6,000 to $7,000 to $8,000 a month. Well, that's a pretty big retirement income. So there's a big range for that, but it is all private pay as opposed to skilled nursing, which might be covered by Medicaid or Medicare, depending on the duration. And assisted living, even that is usually private pay for the room and board part of it. However, the medical care part of it would be covered usually by insurance, Medicare or Medicaid.
Okay. We have about a minute left, so I want to touch on, again, with that planning, some of the pros and cons people should think about with moving into a retirement community.
Well, there's lots of great reasons to move in. Of course, you get all the benefits of whatever the community has. So you do get that dining and that transportation, housekeeping, but more than anything, you get that sense of community. You get to be around other people. Isolation is an awful part of growing older and not being able to get out of your home as easily. So you get to spend time with friends and make new friends. That's probably the biggest benefit of independent living and moving.
Okay, so we need to pause here for a break, but any final thoughts you want to make sure we hear before we finish?
No, just plan ahead, have the conversation with family. Nobody wants to be forced to move, and if you're in control, you get to choose what's best for you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Nanette. We appreciate all that information.
You're welcome.
We do need to pause here for a quick break, and as Nanette talked about, a retirement community is a great option for a lot of people, but some people might need a little help. So after this break, we'll learn about assisted living facilities. Stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back. Joining us now is Mackenzie Kralich from Sun Heaven Assisted Living, and thanks so much for joining us this morning.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, so let's dive in and talk about assisted living facilities here. So let's define a term that some people may or may not know, activity of daily living, or ADL. Can you define that for us?
Yeah, so ADLs are your daily living stuff, getting up in the morning, getting dressed in the morning, grooming, hygiene, bathing, eating. Those are all your daily living skills that you may or may not need assistance with. So activities, actual activities with an activity director, and making sure that those things happen with our residents. So yeah.
So if someone does need assistance with those ADLs, do they need to move into a facility?
Not necessarily. There is great options out there. If you live in home, you can there's Visiting Angels. I know there's St. Pete's Home Health, and they can come in and do some of those ADLs with them and help them. Most of the time they have another person living in the home doesn't know a lot about medical stuff, so that's where home health comes in. So it's not immediately you have to go to assisted living if you need some help with ADLs. So yeah.
And I know lots of communities have those kind of at-home services that people can look around and see what they can find there. So who is the best candidate for an assisted living facility then?
Somebody who needs a lot. The first thing is I would say ADLs. If you need daily stuff with bathing, meals is a big one, but social integration, getting that social interaction with others is huge. The elderly community tends to have a huge increase with depression from not having these social networks.
Sure.
So somebody who needs help with medication monitoring, also doing activities is a big one. Yeah, so.
And so because some of those do touch on medical or health services, can health insurance pay for assisted living, or how do costs work there?
So with an assisted living like us, we're privately owned, but there is the state, there's Medicaid waiver. It's not the same as Medicaid. You have to call and get on an actual in the system, and you have to get a slot. There's only so many slots that are given out at a time, so you could be on a waiting list. So if that is one of the things you know that your family member is going to need, you want to start it as soon as possible, because it could be a year's waiting list.
Wow.
But then private pay. But then there's also what I always tell people to start doing now is investing in long-term care insurance. They're the ones that would pay for assisted living facilities or other facilities too, but people pay into that third life, and then they use it's MetLife or something like that. So
okay, great. In addition to insurance, are there other financial assistance programs or things like that people might be able to look into or research if they need help paying for an assisted living facility?
The only that I've heard is, like I said, is state Medicaid waiver and long-term care insurance. Medicare doesn't cover assisted livings, so yeah, that would be your best option.
Okay. So we talked before the break with Nanette about some of the amenities that you get at a retirement community. Are those same kind of amenities available at assisted living? So in addition to some of those ADLs or medication assistance, what else can people do if they live in an assisted living facility?
So we handle everything from, we take care of all their laundry, we do all their cleaning, we cook 3 homemade meals a day that is served in a dining room setting. So we serve them meals. We would take care of their bathing if they needed it, grooming, medication management, and activities. So and setting up appointments. Coordinating their medical and dental appointments if their family doesn't live here, and getting them to those appointments. So, yeah.
Okay. So if a family is thinking about moving in a loved one, what are some of the pros or cons they should be talking about as they plan for this move?
Well, first, I always tell people, research every assisted living. And call or go and tour. A tour is huge. You want to see what that facility looks like to see if it's best suited for their needs. And then meet with them, come in, meet with us, and always have a list of questions. Always write down your questions, what you want, bring it in to every facility you go into and say, this is what I'm looking for, this is the needs that she needs, he or she, and I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And then getting prepared for the move itself, what can people bring or not bring? What do they need to be thinking about there?
A big thing is they're smaller rooms. It's not a big 5-bedroom house. You have one room, you have your own bathroom, a closet. So not a lot of clothes. They're not wearing, this extravagant amount. So, just minimal clothes, their own little toiletries, a bed, twin size bed, TV, and maybe a dresser, and everything else is provided to them. So, less is more.
Yeah, it sounds like some downsizing would be a good idea. Okay, so we only have less than a minute left. Anything else you want to make sure folks hear about today when thinking about assisted living or understanding what assisted living really is?
Just education, I think a lot of people maybe are afraid to call. I get a lot of phone calls and they're like, I don't think I'm in the right place, and don't ever be afraid to call. And even if it's an A level, B level, or nursing home, just call. All of us network together and we all guide each other in the right direction. We guide them into the right direction and where they need to go.
Okay,
so
perfect.
Yeah.
All right, Mackenzie, that's it. That's all our time. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
When we come back after this, we will talk about nursing homes, which is another level of care that folks might need when looking for a home where they get some extra services. Stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back. Joining us now is Melinda Herron, who is the Director of Nursing from CUNY Healthcare and Rehabilitation, to teach us a little bit about what we might know about nursing homes. So thank you so much for being with us, Melinda.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about when someone should consider a nursing home.
So really there's two times a person comes to us. The first is usually for a short rehabilitation stay. So that's when they come to us for just a couple weeks, maybe a couple months after a significant injury or illness. So like a hip fracture or a stroke. And then we help them get better, strengthen, increase their strength, and increase their ability to take care of themselves, and then send them back home. Hopefully, that's always our goal there. And then if somebody can't stay at home or they are not managing well in their home, then we can, of course, bring them in for long-term care, and that would be when they don't have an immediate plan to discharge. And we can help them to find a good discharge plan too. But, yep.
All right, and so someone who is having trouble caring for themselves, is the nursing home always the answer there?
The short answer is, of course, no.
Okay.
It just depends on what's going on with them. So what is causing? So sometimes the nursing home is a completely appropriate time for them to come to us, because maybe what's going on physically, we can help them. We can help them get stronger with physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, all of those services that we have to help them get stronger and gain tools so they can go back home. But of course, home is almost always the ultimate goal.
Okay. So as we've talked about each kind of facility or living arrangement for folks, we've talked about the cost, because that's such a big concern or consideration people have to pay attention to. So with nursing homes, whether people are there for the rehabilitation part or they may have to live there for an uncertain amount of time, how does health insurance play into that, since folks are getting medical services?
Right. So, so with Medicare Part A will pay for rehabilitation stays. Okay. Sometimes fully, sometimes in part. It just depends also on what other kind of insurances they might have. Oftentimes, like a nursing home is $9,000 a month, so that is a lot of money. Yeah. But oftentimes it is supplemented with the Medicare Part A will pay for that rehabilitation stay, or at least most of it. You might have a copay. Your other insurance might be able to pick up part of that. But with long-term care, there really is, Medicare won't pay for that, but Medicaid, the state-funded Medicaid, can come in and pick up that bill if you qualify financially. That's
what
really
about private insurances? Do those?
Private insurances, oftentimes private insurances will help with a rehabilitation stay, but typically not for a long-term care stay. Every once in a while you can have a long-term care insurance that might help, but typically that is if you don't qualify for Medicaid for a long-term care stay, then it is often out of pocket.
Okay. And so we talked a little bit about some of the services or why somebody would go to a nursing home. Mm-hmm. Someone who's there for however long they need to be there, that they're living there, what kind of medical services do they get, and what kind of staff do you employ for that?
So we have nurses, of course, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are fully staffed. With nurses, CNAs, we have a full staff of physical therapists, occupational therapists, and speech therapy. And even if you're not there for rehab, they still work with all of all of our residents. We have social workers. We have, we have, of course, have activity personnel and activity workers that really, make their day and help them just spend those hours with quality time.
Yeah.
We have a dietitian who is there, and as well as a whole dietary staff that work to make the meals nutritious and tasty.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So another question I've asked for each level of care here is, if a family is considering a move into a nursing home, what are some of the pros and cons they should consider or talk about?
So the pros are, we have a really high level of care, and we have nurses 24 hours a day. So that eyes on, making, monitoring their conditions, especially if they have high medical needs. That's a big pro. We serve at least 3 meals a day, 3 meals plus snacks a day, and we can accommodate people who have different dietary needs. We have wound care, we have physical therapy and occupational, and all of those cares. We are able to get them to their appointments. We're able to integrate and even have physicians come to our place instead of sending them out. And we're able to integrate like mental health in with their, physical primary health care. So we are able to integrate a little bit more of those services in healthcare than some of the other places.
Okay.
Of course, the cons are it's not home.
Yeah.
Right? It's
tough.
not home. And we try real hard to make it as home-like as possible, but we are aware it's not the same.
Yeah. All right, we're out of time, but final thoughts that you want to hear us to hear today?
I think I know at CUNY, and I think all long-term care, we're just really grateful to be able to serve our community in such an important way.
Yeah.
And our community has really shown love and respect to us as well. So
Yeah, we're grateful to have that kind of care when our family needs it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. That's it. We're out of time. So thank you so much for joining us too. I hope you learned a lot today, and you'll come back and see us again next weekend. Until then, stay fit, stay well, and stay healthy for life with Healthy Living for Life. Thanks, everybody.
Healthy Living for Life is brought to you by Mountain Pacific Quality Health. We'd love to hear from you. If you have suggestions for future programs, visit our website at mpqhf.org or call us at 406-443-4020. You can also catch us on YouTube by visiting our website and clicking on the Healthy Living for Life logo. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions.